Okay, so I got to admit, I don't really know where I want to go with this video. I just kind of wanted to show you a recent drawing I worked on and a little bit of my thinking behind that drawing. So I work digitally for the most part. I work on a Cintiq Mobile Pro thing. It's awesome. I love it. It's super convenient and it really helps me meet my deadlines. That's the most important thing. I do 100% of my comic work on this tablet, and I do most of my other professional work digitally as well. I obviously didn't learn how to draw digitally though. I've been drawing with traditional tools my whole life. It's only within the last, I'd say, 4 to 5 years that I moved 100% digital. And like I said, it's 100% amazing. I love it, but it leaves me with a little bit of an itch to scratch, I guess, sometimes, where I want to like touch paper and get ink on my hands and use a brush and all that kind of stuff. I guess I'm a real artist at the end of the day. I don't know. A lot of times in my sketchbooks and when I go to life drawing sessions, I'll use traditional tools and play around with different kinds of tools that I wouldn't normally use in my professional work, like highlighters, for instance, or ink washes, or cheap like Staples ballpoint pens, things like that. And a part of me sometimes wants to bring a little bit of that into my actual professional work. So this week I've been kind of experimenting with just making different lines on paper and seeing what happens. And I wanted to kind of take you through a recent drawing that I made. I don't know if this is in frame completely, but it's I guess you would call this mixed media. It doesn't really look much different than any of my other drawings, but the application and the process was a little bit different. And I took a little bit of footage during it, and I thought I would show you a little bit of an insight as to how I made this. So this is really a mix of ink, wash, pens, brushes, black ink, and marker. And all of this was like cheap markers, cheap ink, all that stuff, nothing fancy. I don't think the amount of media could really handle on this actual Bristol board that I was using because it kind of buckled a little bit, but that's fine. This was really just an experiment anyway. I'll take you through a little bit of the process. It wasn't any different than most of my other drawings where I start just with penciling. I penciled on the board, and once I felt like I got the pose right and it was interesting enough, then I went in with some ink. I love my trusty Lay pens by Marvy. I get them at Blick, and I use a variety of different pigment liners and pens and brushes as well. Regular brushes as well as brush pens. After I was happy with the basic line work, then I took a little bit of an ink wash and just put a thin ink wash on top of it. I found some old colored ink that I had, and I built that up, adding a little bit more color and a little bit more tone just in the background, and to sort of make the figure in the foreground pop a little bit more, leaving her a lot lighter and a little bit more open. Then I went back in with my black ink and just sort of added some black to accentuate in certain areas. And I also went in and rendered the jacket that she's wearing with various like brushy cross-hatching. That stage I'm really comfortable with. I love working with pens and brushes. It's when it gets to coloring. For me, coloring doesn't come easy. So when I'm working digitally, I have the benefit of a lot of trial and error. I can do things on different layers, and I can afford to be very indecisive and kind of play around. But when I'm coloring traditionally, it's a little bit harder to have that luxury. I feel like I really need to know what I'm doing, and if I mess up, there's no step backward. So when it came to coloring the figure itself, I used some tools that I'm a little bit more comfortable with, which are markers. I like to play around a lot with markers in my sketchbooks when I'm figure drawing and just experimenting. I use these Blick markers, and there's really nothing special about them. They're actually super affordable, which is great, but they're kind of like, I guess, cheap versions of Copic markers. They work really well for me. I really like what they're able to do, but if I were to pursue this marker technique a little bit further, maybe in time I would invest a little bit more in Copics perhaps. So I kind of just worked with whatever I had, which was some random colors. I had like a pink, an orange, red, and a green, and I tried to make do with what I had. And for me, that actually kind of works out to my benefit when it comes to coloring, because coloring, I found, it helps me to simplify my choices when it comes to color and give myself a limited amount of color to work with and try to make interesting things happen with those colors. If I have a wide range of color to work from, I almost get stuck and I don't know what to do with all those colors. So I go for more of a limited approach, almost like a silkscreen, using the colors that I have to their best ability. And that's kind of what I did here. I also worked with the lightest part of that wash that was showing through, coloring around it in certain areas just to create a certain light source, to create a nice effect throughout her figure. So like I said, I don't really know where I wanted to go with this video. I don't know if there's much of a point to it other than the fact that recently I've been just kind of playing around with more traditional tools, and I thought I would show you a little bit of what I'm working on. This is kind of, I guess, a little bit more of an in-depth IG story, I guess. I don't know where this is really going to go, but I found that as an artist, picking up different tools from time to time and stepping out of your comfort zone sometimes leads to some sort of breakthrough and next step in your process and your art developing. So maybe I'll make more of these videos as it pertains to my exploration with line and color and process in general. Who knows? We'll see. But if you're interested in seeing more stuff like this, let me know in the comments down below. Anyway, thanks so much for watching this video that I still don't really know what it's about, but hopefully you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.